All right, let's get into it. The Texans, some good news on the injury front today. It is the Locker Room #1 source for Texans digital content. They get some good news. Will Anderson, he's back at practice as expected. Nick Chubb, he's back at practice. Keep an eye on that foot, though. We'll see if Nick Chubb is good to go. And then Danico Autry's back. Still out. Titus Howard, Jalen Petrie, who are both in concussion protocol. And then Ed Ingram. So the concussion protocol is pretty tricky. I anticipate the right side of the O-line probably not being good to go. The Jalen Petrie thing as well, probably not going to be able to play either. But you will have Will Anderson. You will have Danico Autry. We'll see what happens with the Nick Chubb situation. It was Nick Caley day today. I would say probably the one that Texans fans are most frustrated with. I would say Nick Caley is probably #1 on that list when it comes to the source of Texans fans' frustration. The manner in which Nick Caley has handled himself, the fact that he really hasn't been much of an upgrade from Bobby Slowick, it's not great for Nick Caley, and he hasn't looked good. And quite frankly, every time he talks, he really doesn't sound good either. And I don't know what to make of him. I like the guy. He seems like he is more accountable than a lot of the coaches on this staff, but he might be in over his head. But I will say it does feel like he's ready to work with Davis Mills. This video, by the way, brought to you by Sleeper, the best app in the game when it comes to sports. Higher Lower is a game that I enjoy playing, and I use it as my scoring app now as well. You can download the Sleeper app. I'll tell you about a promotion a little later on. But let's just hear this bromance between Nick and Nick, the Nick and Neck duo. Nick Caley, Davis the Neck Mills. It feels like Nick Caley may like what Davis Mills has to offer.
Well, he's a pro's pro. He's really smart. He approaches every single day with the right attitude. He's locked in, and he handles everything. Operation, he's into the game. He's into the game plan. He studies football. I have a lot of faith in him. He's been awesome to be around. Took a lot of reps, obviously, in the spring. So this week will be a great opportunity for him to obviously get the bulk of the reps. But I have a lot of faith in him. I mean, he's sharp. The mechanics of playing the quarterback position, he does extremely well. He's a competitor. He takes a lot of pride in it, has great rapport. He's a good communicator, and he's got good talent. He can throw the ball. He's played the game. He's played plenty of football before. So, and we're lucky to have him, and I'm excited to just continue to work through the week. He's done a really nice job.
It seems like he really, really likes Davis Mills. And I'm not sitting here saying that he likes him more than CJ Stroud. I'm just saying it seems like he really likes Davis Mills. And the reality is it feels like a lot of coaches that are cut from the same cloth as Nick Caley, sometimes they don't like the right guys or the better player. There's a lot of other factors that come into it. Same reason why Jalen Noel isn't playing, which none of us seem to get. And Nick Caley was asked about Jalen Noel and why in the heck he's not playing more. And this was his explanation on why certain wide receivers play and why certain wide receivers don't, and how they use that rotation that I've probably been bitching about more than anyone. Not probably, I have been, because I just really don't get it. Maybe I'll get it after I hear old Nick.
You try to find balance. That's the question. Is it perfect? No. Do some games dictate in situations in different groupings that you might go a different way? Sometimes it happens like that. We have a lot of confidence. We talked about the depth of the receiver position. We've got a lot of confidence in all those guys. So we try to create balance so we're not wearing anybody else out. We feel good about the depth of the outside to inside and the flex guys, and just trying to, obviously get whoever we can out there that's going to help us from week to week. And sometimes it gets a little more lopsided than you want, and sometimes you get it closer to how you envision it going into the game, but nothing's perfect, and we're always striving to get our guys involved. We got everybody at the game. We're going to try to use as many people as we can to help us.
James says that sounded like a shout out to James. We see him at all the Spankies gatherings. By the way, we're going to be back at Spankies next Friday, the 14th and the 21st. SNL will be in the building at Spankies. It's going to be fun. It's going to be looking ahead to the Titans game back on the Jags game, perhaps. And the 21st is going to be extra special because it's going to be the day after the Buffalo game. So come out to Spanky, Sharpstown. It's always a good time. I haven't met anyone that hasn't had a good time. And these next two are going to be real special at our home base of SNL, which you can hear Monday through Friday, 4 o'clock right here. The Nick Caley thing is really interesting because he has Davis Mills as his backup. I feel like he might be excited. I also feel like there's a chance that they're going to run the ball a little bit too much. But there is also something that nobody's really talking about. And that's that Davis Mills kind of owns Trevor Lawrence. In their head-to-head matchups, Davis Mills has kind of owned Trevor Lawrence. Could I interest you in some stats? These are the 3 head-to-head matchups. And keep in mind, the Texans have sucked since when Davis Mills was the starter. They're one of the worst teams in the league. Now, we can say, well, Trevor Lawrence had Urban Meyer. Yeah. But he also lost to him the next season. And they ended up splitting that year. So if you look at these head-to-head numbers, though, and this was kind of the excitement of Davis Mills, like the early excitement of Davis Mills with the Texans. And let's look at these numbers. Davis Mills, 2-1. 57 of 94, 2 touchdowns and interception. Not great. Could be worse, which it is on the other side. Trevor Lawrence, 64 of 106, no touchdown passes, 3 interceptions. That's the head-to-head matchup. And the Davis Mills excitement early on, I think you can kind of connect it to the fact that he was in the same draft class as Trevor Lawrence, and he really had a better rookie year than Trevor Lawrence. I think that had as much to do with the Davis Mills excitement as anything. And plus, you were just trying to move on, and the quarterback's always going to get a lot of support. But Davis Mills, when he's faced Trevor Lawrence, he's actually done a pretty nice job. And the combination of DeMeco Ryans and this defense having the potential to make quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence look really bad, and the fact that Trevor Lawrence has the ability to look really bad is probably what Texans fans hang their hat on. And it's probably why this betting line is what it is right now. Where despite the fact that CJ Stroud is out, despite the fact Jacksonville has a decent record, the Texans are just a 1.5 point dog. That has as much to do with it as anything. And we don't know who Trevor Lawrence will be throwing to. Furthermore, his best wide receiver, who I thought was going to be an absolute baller this year, I'll be honest. I put Brian Thomas on my fantasy team, and I was hyping up Brian Thomas. He and Nico Collins have both had disappointing seasons. I do think that there is also a possibility, as we go through the possibilities of this game, I think there's a possibility that maybe we see Davis Mills force feeding Nico Collins. They have some chemistry. They've known each other for a long time. And there've been a lot of complaints that maybe the Texans don't do enough force feeding of Nico Collins and they don't get him as involved as possible. I know DeMeco Ryans and Nick Caley have been a little bit defensive about that. Maybe it'll be just what the doctor ordered when you get to see Davis Mills perhaps forcing it to Nico Collins. Don't know. No idea what this receiver rotation is going to look like, but I am intrigued to see it. And I do think there's the possibility that Trevor Lawrence might just outsuck Davis Mills. Pause. The next thing that I want to get into is the fact that Nick Caley claims that he loves Jalen Noel. He's claiming he loves Jalen Noel. Do you believe him?
We love Jalen Noel. Like we plan for him. He's got a role in our offense, and I mean he'll continue to do that. And he's done a really good job for us, and he'll continue to do a good job for us. So again, it's sometimes it gets a little lopsided, but it's not due to the fact that we have less faith in him versus somebody else or anybody else. We have a lot of faith in those guys, especially Jalen too.
Yes, especially Jalen too. I guess like you can say that you have faith in him, but when he contributes for you, and then he's playing less than any other wide receiver on the team. Are we sure about that? Do you really do you really not have much faith in him? Or have that much faith in him? I don't know how that makes sense. So you're saying that you have faith in him, but you're not playing him? Make that make sense. It's one of the many confusing things about Nick Caley that I just don't really understand. And I wonder, and I wanted to ask this question, but there was just so much going on, and I think the press conference ran long, so I wasn't able to ask it, but I want to know who makes these decisions when it comes to playing. I know there was a question about NFL rules that got in the way, and then there was a question about, like, is it harder to prepare with guys hurt? Like, I wanted to ask him who makes these decisions, the personnel decisions. Like, who do you lean on? And I'm sure there'll be another time to ask that. But that was something that I really wanted to ask today. Just wasn't able to get it in. So it was just kind of a little bit different. So the next thing that I want to get into when it comes to Nick Caley is the question he was asked, and he's been asked this in multiple forms. What does the offense do well? Here's what he had to say.
Physical outfit that wants to run the ball downhill, okay, starting with that with change-ups, okay. We did not run the ball well enough, okay. I would say that starting off, and then we've shown the ability to drive the football, okay. We haven't been able to finish well enough, which has been disappointing. So we've got to do a better job of that again, starting with me, standing here, okay, and we own that.
All right, starting with you, blah, blah, blah. It's my fault, yada, yada, yada. I get it. All coaches are going to say that. It starts with me, whatever. It's empty words. And that's really what I want to get to, and what the main topic of the day was when it came to hearing from Nick Caley. Because we hear this all the time, and we hear coaches say it all the time. It's the E word, execute. We'll get into this in a sec. First, though, let me tell you about the greatness of TDECU, the greatness that is TDECU. That Texans debit card with that fresh logo, always representing. You always got to represent, even when things are bad. And with the TDECU Texans debit card, you can do that. All you got to do is go to tdecu.org/Texans. If you're more of a Cougs fan, you can get that too. And you're going to be able to take advantage of everything that TDECU has to offer. When you got the Texans debit card, you get 15% off Texans gear with that debit card. And you also get all the great perks that come with doing business with one of Houston's finest establishments. Shout out to TDECU for working with SNL and myself, proud sponsor of Reaction Monday, proud sponsor of Houston football. Go to tdecu.org/Texans to get that debit card. Membership required, insured by NCUA. Football coaches can be kind of annoying. They can be kind of annoying. And a lot of times there's bits that football coaches have that just kind of make you roll your eyes a little bit. And the word that you always hear on underperforming, bad, mediocre football teams, or good football teams that aren't reaching their potential, is execute. And I've gotten to the point where I feel that the word execute basically means that the coaches do everything right during practice. They call perfect plays, and the players just have to do whatever the hell the coaches tell them to do. And I think the Texans coaching staff has really established that identity in recent weeks. I go back to 2 weeks ago with DeMeco Ryans, and this has nothing to do with you guys good or anything like that. But I think this was where the week where a lot of frustration DeMeco Ryans had kind of surfaced. And I think this was the quote where I just said, okay, this coaching staff thinks that they're perfect, and they think that everything that they do is right. This was DeMeco Ryans talking about what needed to happen, what the players needed to do, listen to this. And I asked Nick Caley about this, and I think you're going to find it interesting how he responded to it. Here was D'Amico a couple of weeks ago.
I'm figuring out why things are happening. It's always baffling as a coach when you go through and you practice a certain thing and you work it a certain way, and guys get in the game and do something completely different. Well, that's being disjointed. Like, we got to be on the same page, and not on the same page like we don't know what we're doing. We just got to do what we called. We got to run what we call, right? The techniques we work, the things we established throughout training camp, we got to do that, right? And when we do that, you'll see we operate efficiently. We are able to be in the right spot defensively, special teams wise. We're able to get our blocks done the right way when we just execute what we practice all week, right? You can't get in a game. So I told our guys today, you can't get in a game and overcomplicate football. I know football can be a complex game within a game, but to me, football is simple. And you make it simple, you keep it simple, and allow guys to go play fast. All right, and that's what we've done, but we don't need to make things up. We don't need to try to do something or press and make a play. Just be like, we just have to stay with what we've been coached to do it the right way every single time. When I say it's one snap at a time, that's what I truly mean. It's not, oh, I need to make this big play. You need to focus in one snap at a time, do exactly what you're coached to do. When we do that, we play well. When we get outside of that and we try to do more, that's when we don't play well. So it's not complicated to play this game. We don't need to make it that way. Let's play fast and let's play fun.
All right, I don't even know that that's really up for interpretation. Like, if they practice what we practice and they do what we say, then everything's going to be fine. I mean, that's basically what you hear every time a coach says execute. And I find it amusing because the NFL is kind of funny to me, because the biggest complaint from players, and I actually think the NFL does it the right way. I think the NFL is the best league. I think it resembles the real world more than anything else. But the biggest complaint from players is we don't have guaranteed contracts like baseball and basketball. I don't think they should. That's just me. Now, if they negotiate it, good for them. But I don't think it should just be a given that it's guaranteed. But on the other side, coaches usually have guaranteed contracts, especially head coaches. Isn't that kind of crazy that the players can get cut any second? A lot of their contracts are kind of fake. Like, the last year's kind of fake. Like, we don't think that Dalton Schultz is going to play for $11 million next year. Like, we know that. But coaches have kind of guaranteed money no matter what. Why? How many, like, the shelf life of coaches, head coaches, it's not like it's long consistently. A lot of times you get stuck with the deal. But I think there's a lot of entitlement when it comes to coaches. And when I hear the word execute, I look at the word execute like I look at, I've said this on SNL. I look at it as someone going to the stand and saying, I plead the fifth. Okay, you plead the fifth. All right, but you're not really saying anything. Like, execute could mean a lot of things. But a lot of times when a coach says it, it's under the premise that what I said was perfect, what I have them practice is perfect, and the player just needs to go out there and do his thing. What if you're not practicing the right things? What if you're not calling the right plays? And what if you're asking a guy to do something he's not capable of? He's just got to execute. It's pretty simple. You could go for it on 4th and 30 and just say, yeah, I got to execute. So I don't really understand the whole execute thing. It's one of the most amusing bits that coaches do, and the Texans do it more than anyone. So I asked Nick Caley, because he threw that E word out early. And I asked Nick Caley, and I followed up on it. What does execute mean? Notice when he first answers it, it's basically under the premise that the players just got to do what they say and they got to have fundamentals and stuff like that. What if the O-linemen aren't capable of winning at the line of scrimmage on short yardage when it comes to running the rock or whatever you ask them to do? I asked him, and I thought this back and forth was enlightening. I thought he handled it fine, but I also think coaches do what coaches do, and basically they function under the premise that everything they teach is perfect, every call that they make is perfect, You guys tell me how you take this.
We hear the word a lot with not just you, but football coaches in general. The best you can, what does execute mean?
Execute means doing your job, okay, the way you're supposed to do it, with technique, with precision, and with great effort, and the way it's supposed to be done. And so penalties, poor technique, mental errors fall into those things. That's what it means.
Is there, because it feels like, what if the process up to setting them up to execute is not in check? Because a lot of times it feels like it's almost like excluding the whole practice process to where they got to do what we say they got to do. And stuff.
I take accountability for, if that's what you're implying, I take accountability starting with me on this. It's the entire operation. So we've got to do a better job. We got to, find better ways to ultimately get the ball across the goal line. Understand the intent of what you're asking, but you're asking me about execution physically. That's what it means. We also have to put ourselves in position to be able to find different ways to score. And so, it hasn't been good enough. I definitely agree with that, no doubt about it. And that's the quest, is to do that for sure. It's a whole thing. Yeah, it's how you practice. It's how you approach everything, and then ultimately, when you get an opportunity for 60 minutes on Sunday, you got to go do it. And haven't done a good enough job of that.
Okay, so it starts out with the player thing, and it's a coach's thing, but it's always empty accountability with coaches. You understand? Like, it's always empty accountability, and even the biggest players coach is putting it on the players to execute under the premise that we're doing everything right and we need the players to go out there and do what we tell them to do. It's a direct quote. It's not up for interpretation. It's not a reach. That's exactly what they're doing and what they're saying and what it looks like. I'm just always amused by the word execute. It's the biggest cop out in all of coaching. We got to execute. You can say that about anything. I got to execute. Yeah, I got to do better. Of course, sure. But when you specifically say the players got to do this, what do you got to do? And it goes back to the process thing. Like, you hear these coaches, they get their ass whooped consistently, and then they come out and say, "Yeah, we trust our process. We trust the practice." Who trusts it? You? It's a weird world that coaches live in, especially in a league that I think does it right, where the players don't live under that same thing. I trust D'Amico on defense. I'm bringing up D'Amico because D'Amico brought it up, and he's the overseer of the whole team, so he's the face of it. I trust D'Amico on defense, that he's going to put him in the right situation. Maybe when D'Amico's talking about it from a defensive POV, I just separate that. You're not going to be a successful head coach, though, if it's only on defense, which is basically what D'Amico Ryans is learning right now. But on the offensive side of things, it seems like there might be a possibility that you're not asking these guys to execute the right things. And it seems like you might be asking them to do what they're not capable of doing, which goes back to what they said when they first hired Nick Caley. And this is the irony of this whole thing. So one of the first things they said, it was music to my ears, I'll be honest. After Bobby Slowick, it was kind of music to my ears.
Damn it, Bobby.
I was like, oh my God, that is exactly what Bobby Slowick started doing. They said square peg, round hole. You remember? Square peg, round hole. We don't want to fit a square peg into a round hole. Everyone on that stage has said it. Nick Caley has said it. D'Amico Ryans has said it. Nick Caserio said it. And this is the most square peg, round hole operation that I've watched in my time covering this team. You go back to O'Brien, any of the guys that he had call offense during his time, Tim Kelly, Pep Hamilton, Bobby Slowick. This is the biggest square peg, round hole operation I've ever seen. I would love to be able to separate the talent from the operation. They would like to too. But they don't call the offense like they have a grasp of that. You ask Laken Tomlinson after he got benched for 2 weeks, to win at the line of scrimmage against one of the best D lines in the league against Seattle, not once, but twice from midfield. Didn't even have to go for it. Like, if you're going to go for it in that situation, third quarter of a one possession game, you don't even have to go for it. You'd think you'd have confidence. A guy that you benched the previous 2 weeks, you run behind him? That's square peg, round hole. Woody Marks, he's a good receiving running back. He's one of the most accomplished receiving running backs in recent college football history. He's basically a dump down option. That's not even trying to fit the square peg into the round hole. That's just basically throwing the toy away. Jalen Knowles not on the field because of blocking? Did you draft him to block? I mean, I thought the days of over-romanticizing and glorifying and all that, the blocking stuff was gone when Kevin Walter retired or left the Texans. Really? Your most explosive guy is not going to be out there because of blocking? It's the biggest square peg round hole operation of all. And they simplify it and say we just got to execute. I like Nick Caley. I'm rooting for Nick Caley. But goodness gracious. There's a lot more to it than just execute. I promise you. What a world that they live in, these coaches. What a world that they live in. And it's not just exclusive to the Texans coaching staff. Every shitty coach in the history of the world has said we got to execute better. What a crazy world that these guys live in, with the guaranteed contracts and the fact that they just say we got to execute. Well, maybe you're not doing a good job from Monday to Sunday. Maybe you're not doing a good job calling plays. Maybe you're not adjusting to what you got. I mean, it's a hell of a life they live. Not everyone has that luxury. There's probably a lot of people that watch this that are in management or something like that. You imagine if you just try to fit a square peg into a round hole and just say we got to execute. It's ridiculous. It's the worst bit in coaching. It really is. It's so bad. And that's just what coaches say. I appreciate Nick Caley for answering. I appreciate Nick Caley for saying what he said about, we got to be, it's a Monday through Sunday type of thing. I just wonder, like, what's changing, what's evolving. And I think he was asked that by, I think it was Kim Davis. I literally just said that. They got to do what we say. It's crazy. It's craziness, but it's not just a Texans thing. It happens to be all over the place, but my gosh. It's crazy. It's mind-boggling, honestly. We just got to execute. Just plead the fifth. Come on. It is a locker room number one source for Texans digital content. You know who does execute, though? He doesn't just say it, he actually executes. Dan, the man from Texans Turf. He is the best in the game. I know, because he did my backyard. The drainage, perfect. Always green, always clean, no mud, no insects, family friendly, everything. This weather, I'm excited for it because I know I got Texans Turf. I've had it for a while. I shopped around. I wanted the turf. It looks so lovely. But it's a stressful thing to shop for. And there's a bunch of slime balls that are trying to rip you off. They're half-assing jobs. They're acting like your job is too small for them. But that's not what Texans Turf has. They've handled some rich mofos around town. And they've handled just common small backyards like mine. And they're going to put as much thought into my backyard as they do someone who has 8-9 zeros in their bank account. That's how they roll. Putting greens, playing services, they got you covered. And I already shopped for you, so you don't have to. So do what I did. If you want to get that always green, always clean turf, trust me, Dan is the man. I wouldn't say it if he wasn't. I was a customer before we started the partnership with Houston Football, and I'll be a customer for life. So shout out to Dan the man. Trust me, TexansTurf.com. They'll work with you. They'll get the job done. Not like Nick Caley. So I go back to the earlier question. Will Nick Caley flop or thrive with Mills? I feel like he's enjoying himself right now. I'm not going to lie. I really did believe Nick Caley when he said how much he liked Davis Mills. He was kind of glowing. He was glowing. He looked like someone who'd just fallen in love. I feel like he's a big fan of Davis Mills. But I'm a little bit concerned about the way this offense is functioning, but I do wonder if they can mask Caley. Can the superpower finally win a game? People are getting mad at me for calling the defense a superpower. Some people. And I'm like, damn, is this defense overrated? Hadn't been like one person. It's been a handful of people. Man, you gotta quit. You gotta quit saying this is a good defense. I'm all ears. I'll listen. I think it's a good defense. But the pushback is they haven't been able to carry the team to victory against good teams. That would be a true statement. They've beat the Titans and they beat two depleted teams, maybe even more depleted than what the Texans are this weekend. That's a fair statement. So if your criticism of the defense is they haven't beat a good team, that's fair. Matt Burke said maybe they're not doing good enough either. You make the tackle of Baker Mayfield at the end of the game, you win. With the Rams, if you stop them on 4th and goal, you probably win. The Jags, you don't let Brian Thomas Jr. have how many ever yards he had on that play, you perhaps win. So if that's your pushback, okay. Can't really argue with you on that fact. Now, the offense doesn't help, but that's the other argument is because opposing offenses know that the Texans defense sucks, they're not really forcing it as much as they can. Denver's offense sucks, by the way. Denver, we just watched the Denver game. I think most of us did. I think most of the audience did. They're kind of getting to the point where it's a how does that team have that record type of squad. Bo Nix sucks. He's not good. He's very average. But their defense has carried them. And they do have Sean Payton calling offense, so they don't have Nick Caley. But I did see the Rams basically just take their foot off the gas week 1. I did see that. But that's the other pushback. I don't think this defense is overrated. I still think it is a superpower. I think this defense could very well carry them home this Sunday against the Jags. But it does kind of feel like there's a big eye roll with a lot of people when talking about the defense. And I think the other source of frustration, so number one is the defense hasn't been able to carry you against good teams. That's fair. Number two is some people feel that opposing offenses aren't necessarily trying to turn it up as much because they don't have to. Okay, maybe. But the other one is they pay so much more attention to the defense that it should be good. You invested everything you did in Will Anderson. You invested everything you did in Danielle Hunter. Traded 3 premium picks for Will Anderson. Plus more. You made Danielle Hunter the highest paid free agent that you've ever signed. You're paying Jalen Petrie. You're using a 2nd-round pick on Kamari Lassiter. You're using a 3rd-round pick on Kalen Bullock. You used a top 3 pick on Derek Stingley. Aziz is making $10 million. You have a reserve DN that's making damn near $10 million that can barely stay on the field. Like he's blocking field goals, which is cool. And then on offense, I mean, you're basically bargain shopping for the offensive line this offseason. You use some draft picks on wide receivers, you're not maximizing them. So I think there's a combination of, yeah, it's a good defense, but there's a defensive-minded coach that can't figure out the offense. So big deal. Big deal. You're 3-5. Who cares about the defense? That would not be my source of frustration, but I get it. But I do want to ask the question, which players and coaches are you most frustrated with when it comes to the Texans? Who are you frustrated with? Who is making you the most frustrated when it comes to the Texans? I think Nick Caley is probably at the top of this list. And then I think the other one, just based on looking at the reactions from people, I think Dare Ogunbowale is annoying the hell out of people at this point. Overachiever. If everybody maximized their potential like Dare Ogunbowale, there'd be no such thing as an overachiever. I've said this 100 times. I think people are fed up with him even being out there. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting, that people are frustrated that he is still getting offensive reps on this football team. So the top two that I would say, and everyone's timeline is different, everyone's interaction is different. Majority of my dialogue during the day is about this team, and I dedicate a lot of time to covering this team and following this team. I would say those would be the two people that I would say people are the most frustrated with. And quite frankly, I don't even know who else is even in the ballpark at this point. But those would be my list. Some people are saying Frank Ross. Oh, Brandon was kidding. He said Frank Ross, just kidding. But Dare's got to be number one. I think Christian Kirk's creeping up there too because he's taking snaps from Null. And he's already soft tissue injuring when that was the concern.
You ain't never hate.
The swarm.
Michael R. says, if the team can't execute, it's because the game plan is flawed and coaching is not up to par. We're on year 2 of struggling to make a touchdown. Yes, the offense is worse this year than it was before. There's no disputing that. The offense is worse right now than it was last season. The offense has gotten worse every single season DeMeco Ryans has been head coach. That's not disputable. The peak was year 1. Year 2, it fell off. And right now, it's at rock bottom. It's not a recipe for success. It's not a recipe for success. So you're absolutely correct on that. And it's frustrating for a lot of people. So Raj says Dare's gonna lead in snap count if Chubb sits. Perhaps. It could happen. There's a lot at stake this weekend against the Jags. Short and long term. I have 3 things that I think are at stake this Sunday. Number 1 is the season. The most important thing. You're not making the playoffs if you don't win this game. You're probably not making the playoffs if you do win this game. But if you fall 4 games behind the Jags, that's a wrap. I'm not going to sit here and pretend. We laid this out 5-5. That's what we said after 0-3. I'm not going to move the goalpost. 5-5 was what I said. 5-5 was what I meant. You've lost the luxury of having some sort of excuse when it comes to guys being out. Because when you were the more healthy team, the first 8 games of the season, you didn't beat any good teams. You didn't beat any good teams. You beat 2 beat-up teams with backup quarterbacks, and you beat the biggest laughingstock in the league in the Tennessee Titans. So at this point, you've got to even that out. You've got to even that out, and you've got to figure it out. If the Texans don't beat the Titans with Case Keenum, when DeMeco Ryans was a rookie head coach, they don't make the playoffs and they don't win the division. They got to do that this year. They got to do that just to even have a puncher's chance. Not even a puncher's chance, like a got to knock out the other guy in 30-second kind of chance. They got to win this game. The season that they are not, season's not over for me. I'm going to be here all the time. But the season's over for them as far as any playoff chances. Like it's over. You know, Jim Mora doesn't even need to waste his breath.
Playoffs.
I don't even got to say that. if you lose this game. It's a wrap.
Playoffs.
Done. No chance. That's what you got. Shout out to Vince McMahon. Can you shout out Vince McMahon now? Probably not. Stake 2, the current regime. I think the current regime as we know it is going to get a close look. A close look. Assuming that ownership is still focused on football. I kind of kid. But they did have something else going on today that I'll mention in a sec. But the current regime, D'Amico and Caserio as a pairing. D'Amico's not going anywhere. But they're going to have to evaluate this whole thing. This is Caserio's guy on offense. Caserio really has done a mediocre job with the assets going back to year one. The first 2 years, he had no pressure to win. And they were clearing cap space and they were stockpiling assets. So that anyone could do that if they were given the leeway to do that by ownership. I've always thought that's overrated. Oh, look what they were before. Yeah. And look what they allowed him to do. He was allowed to clear everything out and then stockpile assets. So you got to evaluate Nick Caserio. You got to evaluate the relationship between he and D'Amico Ryans. Maybe D'Amico Ryans wants to remain arm in arm with Nick Caserio. I know he should be heading into the final year of his contract after this season, which would be perfect because it would be a put up or shut up. But you can get rid of him anytime. But I heard that ownership gave him 2 years when they didn't need to, when they gave him that promotion. Now, they don't announce these things. This goes back to the player and coach thing where the coaches get these guaranteed contracts, the players don't. And then GMs, for whatever reason, they get the guaranteed contracts and then they get 2 years for whatever the reason is. But you got to evaluate if you have a competent ownership group and you have an accountable football front office with how this thing would look if they lost on Sunday, you've got to evaluate this regime. And we'll see. We haven't seen Cal and Hannah really since they got through that mud. And I give them more credit for it than Caserio. I mean, they were the ones that were patient. They were the ones that were willing to make the tough decisions, and they were willing to be the ones that let it go down the way that it did, which I was always okay with. But will they be able to make the tough decision now? Who knows? And then at stake 3, I brought this up. Maybe me claiming that this defense is a superpower needs to go away. If you can't beat Trevor Lawrence, if the defense can't carry him home this week, like maybe I do need to quit calling the defense a superpower. Do y'all think I need to stop calling the defense a superpower? Some people think so. Some people think they don't deserve to be called a superpower if they can't carry the team when you need them most. Don't you lean on your strengths when your back's against the wall, right? And they're supposed to take you home and take you to the finish line. Should I stop calling the defense a superpower if they're not able to carry them home against the Jags? We're talking a lot about Davis Mills. Why can't Davis Mills lean on that defense? Why can't the defense get the job done? I still think it's a superpower, though. But it would be nice if they could win this game. There's no doubt about it. I mentioned ownership. So Texans ownership has bought into girls volleyball business. There was a press conference today. Looked like a pretty fancy one. A lot of people dressed up very nicely with the Texans for this gathering. I saw some people saying, well, they should be focused on football. I think ownership's even kind of aware of that notion that they should be focused on football. I don't have like a hot take on if this is a bad look. I don't think it's a bad look for them to pursue other ventures, especially like if it's a good women's volleyball league. But I do think there have been some interesting things that have happened outside of football with the Texans recently, and I don't I don't think this is one of them, but they have kind of like shown that they maybe are kind of like recently lacking feel of, how do I say it? It's like making the right decisions given the moment, reading the room. Reading the room is what we'll say. I think there's been kind of an interesting display of reading the room with the Texans lately, and there's a few examples. This one's not it, but 10 minutes before the trade deadline, they tweeted out like some influencers or something like that I'd never seen before. I'm getting old. I'll be honest. I don't know who these people are, but they tweeted out some influencers getting free stuff. And it was basically just, hey, I'll pull it up. I don't want to just describe this without showing some substance of it. So let's see. Here we go. So keep in mind, this is 10 minutes trade deadline ends. So your hardcore Texan fans, and even maybe the ones that aren't hardcore, they're looking at the final 10 minutes of the trade deadline, and you tweet this out, and just look at the headline. The headline, or the tweet, I should say. Let's move back a little bit. It says here, let's move back. It says "Sweet Life of H-Town Influencers." So we're talking about influencers living the sweet life 10 minutes before the trade deadline. Okay, so wow, those are cool jackets. I don't know who that is. Don't know who that is. Don't know who that is. I'm not trying to just be disrespectful. Don't know who they are. Don't know who that is. Don't know who that is. Don't know who that is. That's a me thing. She looks like a nice lady. Don't know her. She looks like a nice lady. Don't know her. Don't know her. Cool jacket. Cool jacket. Sweet life. Awesome. Y'all got gear. Cool. Great. Fantastic. Awesome. Wow. He got a jacket. Oh, awesome. He got a jacket. Oh, what a sweet life. What a sweet life. What a badass life. Awesome. Cool. Yay. Fantastic. Great. That's so cool. Okay. There you go. Look at the time of this tweet. The NFL trade deadline is at 3:00 on November 4th. They tweeted this out at 2:50 p.m. What is going on here? Like, look at that. I highlighted it right there. You see it? Right there. 2:50 p.m. November 4th. Right before the trade deadline. Again, honest mistake, but read the room a little bit there. It's crazy. So these cool people, these influencers, got cool jackets. Awesome. That's cool. Let's tweet that out 10 minutes before the trade deadline. Okay, someone says my boy Youngstar. I don't know who that is, I'll be honest with you, but good for him. I'm glad he got a jacket. It could have been Paul Wall, Slim Thug. They got a jacket. Awesome. That's really cool that they got jackets. There's not even like a, hey, drop a pin of someone who you want to have that jacket. Brandon asking the jacket block, don't know. So that was one thing that I thought was just kind of weird, a little bit. Maybe that's me being weird. I think that's a little bit weird. But then at the Janice McNair thing, and congratulations to sweet Janice for getting in the Ring of Honor. I'm not questioning that at all. But at the Janice McNair thing, you're going to put Jerry Jones on the Jumbotron congratulating her? Like, how do you think that's going to go? And I will be the first to admit, I think there's a little bit of weirdness in the fact that the Texans and Cowboys don't really play, and there's a lot of hate. I get but I mean, there's never really been like strong football history between Dallas and Houston, even going back to the Oiler days. There was a game here or there, but never anything significant. I thought we might have gotten a all Texas Super Bowl before the Buffalo choke. But Jerry Jones on the Jumbotron, who wants to see that? And he got booed. You couldn't even hear what he was saying. And then the Vikings owner, and I know there were other guys on there, but what's even the point of Jerry Jones and the Vikings owner being on the Jumbotron? Who wants to see that? I thought that was kind of interesting too. And then you factor in the volleyball, and it's just like, okay. Trade deadline. Everybody's waiting to hear something. And we got influencers getting jackets. That is a choice. That is a choice. And I do think the social media team's done a really good job. I like the new addition. The practice highlights have been sick. I like that they're recording the locker room interviews now and making videos out of that. So I think they do a good job. That was probably just an honest mistake, but it was kind of strange. Kind of strange. When it rains, it pours, though. I mean, let's be honest. If they beat Denver, then probably not even bringing that up. But they didn't, and here we are. We're talking about the Neck and Nick bromance. Davis Mills and Nick Caley, the duo that we've been dying for. Forget Schaub and Kubiak and CJ and don't know. We got the Neck and Nick bromance, which I think has a chance. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of leaning towards the Texans in this game. I'm leaning that way. Don't know if I'm going to stay that way. But that's where I'm leaning. I do wonder what CJ is going to be like when he gets back, though. I don't know how he's going to handle it. It's tough, man. 2 concussions. Already kind of hesitant to run. We've been asking for that to be a part of his game, and now it's. I do wonder. I do think that's something to keep an eye on. Is CJ going to be even more hesitant to run and use his legs? That's a long-term concern. It doesn't. It matters because he's going to be here for a while, and it's not just about this season, regardless of what does or doesn't happen this weekend. But as far as like the relevance of this season, you got to win a game without Davis Mills before. But I do wonder if CJ Stroud is going to be hesitant to run. I mean, I think the QB sneaks are done now, right? They've been hesitant before. That's just going to be done. By the way, there's a lot of British Brooks fans in the chat. I like British too. I think he's a great special teamer. I think he's a good fullback. How'd y'all feel about that 2-piece combo British Brooks got last week? Don't even answer that. A lot of people begging for British Brooks to get carries. You got 2 in a row. How did you like that? Probably not a lot. One would assume. Probably not a lot. But I'm buying Mills. I'm not gonna lie. I'm leaning towards Mills and the Texans. I'm leaning towards it. I'm leaning. Last week it was Broncos, like all the way Friday. I'm leaning that way. Tomorrow we'll have to make the final call, myself and Stutz. But I'm leaning that way. As long, man, they got Nick Caley though. Damn it. Caley's calling plays.
Nick.
God. It's tough, man. He's so New England. we thought we were getting Ram stuff here. It's just New England. I wonder if D'Amico felt this way. I wonder, because D'Amico is like so attached to the Kubiak and like he has so much admiration and respect for Sean McVay. You ever hear him talk about Kevin O'Connell? Even Cohen. Like, he even has respect for Liam Cohen, who's kind of cut from that cloth. You ever would think D'Amico, like, I wonder what D'Amico thought he was getting with Nick Caley. Because, I mean, maybe we probably should have known because it's Casario's guy. He was in New England, but then you factor in, yeah, he was in New England, but he was with the Rams recently. And then you hear him talk and you're like, man, he has the same sound as Sean McVay. They're saying all these right things. And then you watch it and you're like, dude, this is New England. You get the hints, the stuff that they're saying. You hear Titus Howard, you hear Jake Andrews. This is New England. What if Davis Mills is better in the New England system than CJ Stroud? Like, for maximizing his ability. He's never going to be as good as CJ Stroud. Like, but the offense going to have the same problems. But what if this system fits Davis's skill set better than it fits CJ's skill set? Just for the next few days. Because obviously you want CJ to come back. There's also a chance CJ's not running this system next year. I also wonder if Davis Mills wins this game, do they just give CJ extra rest? Do they get that's tough though, because here's the thing. Here's the thing. And by the way, if I didn't mention, we'll be at Spanky's next Friday, the 14th, Sharpstown, 3:00 to whenever. You better be there. And then the next Friday, the 21st, Sharpstown, 3:00 to whenever. You better be there. But if you rest CJ extra, like let's say that Davis Mills wins we're getting way ahead of ourselves. Some people are laughing at me right now. How the hell are you going to say they're going to win 2 football games in a row? I can hear you. I know you people, and I do mean you people. I know what y'all are saying, but just bear with me. Let's say that Davis beats the Jags, 1.5 point dog, crazier things have happened. You win that. And then let's say they decide, okay, well, we want to rest CJ a little bit more. We're going to give us some time off, get his mind right, and we're going to let Davis go play the Titans. And let's say that they beat the Titans. And then it's like, okay, CJ, here you go. You inherit a 500 ball club, and we want you to handle things down the stretch. His first game would be Thursday against Buffalo. Texans had a good game against Josh Allen last year. They haven't beaten a good team up to this point. Like, even if CJ gets the extra rest, his first game's against the Buffalo Bills. How does that make you feel? I just hope he's not scared to run. I hope he just does a better job getting down. I just hope he does a better job getting down. I'm not going to bet on it, though. But I do want to give Davis Mills a fair chance this week against the Jags because, let's be real, it's a little bit different when you come in against the Broncos and compared to like getting a whole week against the Jags. We'll lay out some sleeper picks tomorrow. But if you want to get involved, I'm telling you, this is the best deal there is. And this will make your viewing much better. $20 entry if you've never done it. Get the sleeper app. My dad's doing it now. He's loving watching sports. He watches every game. Now it's even more enjoyable for him. I said, why the hell didn't you do this before? He's like, oh, I don't know, son. Okay, well, do what my dad did. $20 entry, no deposit needed. You can also get the 100% match up to $100. So put $20 in and you'll get, I think you'll have 60 in your account for just $20. Or you can just take the free. Download that sleeper app. Best in the game. Scoring app, everything. My dad's impressed by that too. He thinks he's cool. Sometimes he is. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Subscribe, like, ride along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. See y'all at Spanky's a week from tomorrow and a week after that. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's